If I need, keep passing me that wall.
Welcome to Complete QB Live. Tonight.
We went live. Whoops the daisies. Hold on a second. I'm going to.
Welcome to Complete QB Live. Tonight's special guest is Jordan McAfee of Assumption College. Tonight's special guest is Coach Rob Stern. Here are your hosts.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Complete QB Live. It's June 3rd, 2020. We are in episode 6. Coach O'Flaherty, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited. You know, back-to-back weeks. You know, unique interviews with one your starting quarterback, and then this week with your former head coach. So definitely unique for me, but I'm excited.
That's right. It's gonna be good, Coach. I'm loving the backdrop over there. Mine's pretty plain over here. You look like you got a nice setup. Is that the lake over your shoulder, Coach?
It is, but it is. The storms are rolling in here, so I might have to bunker down a little bit.
I love it, man. That's good stuff. Yeah, if the weather gets nasty, Coach, I need you to just obviously stay safe there. I don't want you getting struck by lightning during the show here, man. All right. So we got a good lineup tonight for sure. We got a whole lot going on. First thing we'll kick off. We did some NFL football talk last week. We're gonna do some more of that this week. Obviously, we're gonna jump into our the NFL football talk for this week. We talked coaches last week, Coach, and this week we're gonna get into a little bit of rookie quarterbacks because I think it was an interesting. I think we have 4 quarterbacks go in the first round. This year, and that's probably about par for the course on a typical NFL draft. But there's some, and not all the guys that we'll talk about tonight were necessarily first rounders. But I think it's a pretty interesting talk to have, and we're gonna get a chance to each of us chime in with a couple guys that we think are going to be interesting scenarios as we go forward. And we're going to jump into the first of our guests after we go through the NFL football talk with the rookie QBs, and that first guest is going to be Jordan McAfee from Assumption College, Massachusetts. He's got a really interesting story because his was not a direct path. He didn't go necessarily just straight from high school to the school that he stayed at for 4 years. He made his way, Coach, another SAT word for you, he took a circuitous route to where he's at right now, but he's doing really well. And really interested to get some feedback from him on what that path was like. We'll jump into a food segment after that, which we're going to love, Coach, because we like to eat. And tonight we're going to kick it off with something that's right here in the tri-state area, and we'll talk a little bit about I've recently patronized this establishment 4 times in like 6 weeks, Coach. So it's worth mentioning for sure. And then we'll come out of that and we'll get with our second guest tonight. Is going to be Rob Stern from St. Joseph Regional in North Jersey. I know it's an opponent that you know well, and Coach Stern is a guy that we know well. You played for him, I coached for him, so it should be an interesting talk with him. We'll jump into drill of the week after that, and this week is a pretty basic movement for a quarterback when it comes to transferring weight, but I think it's an important one for us to cover for sure. And then finally we get into some complete QB Live trivia. It's going to be very thematic. I'm going to give one little hint. It's got an Assumption College twist to it. And that's all I'm going to say about the trivia question for tonight. So, Coach, now when we get into the NFL football talk, we had 4 quarterbacks. And I know that when I asked you who you wanted to talk about, the first guy was probably a little bit of an understated guy, I guess you could say, meaning that he didn't play at the highest profile place. But he is going to one of the NFL's most storied franchises. So who's the first guy you want to talk about?
Yeah, so first guy for me is the guy out of Utah State, and that's Jordan Love. First round draft pick. Late in that first round, the 26th pick overall. So many interesting and dynamic headlines around this pick. Obviously with Aaron Rodgers being there, and then obviously, Aaron Rodgers still has a couple of years left to go here. It's a very Brett Favre-like situation that Aaron Rodgers is obviously, familiar with. the big thing for me is, forget why they drafted him and where they drafted him.
Yeah.
But what the scouts really thought of him, and they thought of Jordan Love as a kind of a boom or bust type of guy.
Yeah.
You look at his last year's stats, 62% completion percentage. Only threw 20 touchdown passes in 13 games. He turned the ball over. Well, he had 17 interceptions. Threw for a whole bunch of yards, but it was a huge dip from the previous year. And then you look at Utah State overall. 7-6. They did win their bowl game. But the thing that I'm most intrigued about with Jordan Love is where he's going. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur, who obviously had a fantastic first year, going 13-3 with the Packers and losing to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I think Matt LaFleur is a really, really good quarterback coach. I think they can project this as an emergency situation. God forbid Aaron Rodgers went down. During the year, during his first year. But I think for Jordan Love, you look at the franchise, and it's a perfect situation for him to learn under Aaron Rodgers, learn under Matt LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
They always have a respectable defense, and then just the whole factor of it being Green Bay. And then just his talent alone, he's got a big time arm. Obviously, he can make all the throws. He got drafted in the first round, but there's so many different factors with Jordan Love and the headlines. I think this is something we could see down the road.
Sure.
Him being a 10-year, 12-year starter. For the Green Bay Packers.
I could buy that too, and it's funny because usually when the draft specialists come out during the winter into the early spring as the draft approaches, a lot of the talk is about what impact does playing at a smaller school have on readiness for the NFL and somebody's preparedness to go tackle things at the pro level. And honestly, there's some guys, Carson Wentz among them, who have proven, there's lots and lots of FBS and Power 5 quarterbacks who don't get a sniff in the NFL, and there's some of these small school guys that just seem to emerge. And I mean, Garoppolo and the not too distant past, Tony Romo, guys that came from not primetime places, and there's no knock on Utah State. They're just not a Power 5 school. They're a Group of 5 school.
Yep.
So I'll be interested to see how that shakes out. But I don't see. I think recently we've seen with the amount of times that quarterbacks tend to transfer during their collegiate career, I think necessarily the level doesn't necessarily matter when they're Division I quarterbacks. I think what matters is just the development that takes place from, say, one point in time to when they're finally ready to go to the league. And I think a lot of it has to do with what the situation is that you go into. And like you say, he's going with Matt LaFleur, which is a great fit for any quarterback to go to. Now, So talking about situations and destinations, that brings up my first guy, Coach. And I think now he may not jump off the page at you as somebody who's in has fantastic readiness for the NFL at this moment because he had a bumpy ride at his first school. But the guy that is on my mind here is, I'm going to bring up a picture of him first, and that is Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts, I think, is a special kind of quarterback in that he is, when you talk about the intangibles of the quarterback position, he's got that cold, man. He handled that situation, managed that with a dignity and an approach that a seasoned veteran, I'm sure there's a lot of guys in the NFL that wouldn't have been able to handle it as well as he did. And he was classy, and I think everybody associated with this guy has said the way that he carried himself was exemplary and certainly is the type of guy that teammates will rally around. I think there's no question. What I think makes his situation so interesting for where he's going is the injury history of the starter for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think there is a possibility that you have to at least consider it as a possibility that Jalen Hurts, somebody you could see on the field in the not too distant future in Philadelphia. He obviously went and he tore it up at Oklahoma, and I think in just checking over my notes, doing my research before this, I think he was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year this year. What's crazy is the amount of yards he put up. His touchdown to interception ratio was fantastic, but this guy rushed, I think, for over 1,200 yards on top of that. You know what I mean? So he was a really productive guy at the position. So I wonder, in a division that hasn't been known for explosive offense in recent years, has really been, I'm sure there's a lot of NFC East fans who will tell you just about any team in that division that they haven't necessarily been thrilled, other than the Eagles themselves, which is interesting because God forbid anything was ever to happen to any quarterback ahead of Jalen Hurts, he could very well find himself leading a team in that NFC East division. So I think that'll be really interesting. Any thoughts on Jalen Hurts, Coach, before we go to your next guy?
Yeah, I think, just the whole how he handled Alabama and the transition to Oklahoma. I mean, it's just, you don't see that nowadays.
Yeah.
From any position, never mind the quarterback position. Like you said, so much dignity behind. It was like everything that he did was calculated, and I think that's going to serve him well in the NFL. Listen, if you told me I decided on the dotted line today to be a career backup in the NFL,
yeah,
I'd sign today. So
you'd take it, right, Coach?
I sure would.
Absolutely.
So, I think he's going to do fairly well. I think it's going to come down to him actually getting a shot. That might be through injury or down the road here, but he'll be ready just as he was when he went to Oklahoma.
No doubt. I think that's the truth, man. Okay, your second guy, Coach. You're up with your second selection.
Yeah. So my second guy, a little bit more of a high profile guy coming out of Oregon, Justin Herbert, first round draft pick, 6th overall. Crazy, 6th overall, and he was already the 3rd quarterback taken behind Joe Burrow and Tua.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's going into a really good situation if he were to be the starter and if he had to sit. Right now it's obviously with Philip Rivers departing for, I believe, the Colts. They signed Tyrod Taylor, who is an NFL vet. I think he has a little bit of the upper hand just because of his relationship with Anthony Lynn when they were both at Buffalo. But
sure.
I mean, you look at Justin Herbert. He's a 6'6", 240-pound guy, big arm. He didn't run a whole lot. When you think of Oregon, so many people think of Chip Kelly and quarterbacks running all over the place. Obviously, it's a little bit different now. And they didn't need him to do that necessarily. But he's able to do that. He's going to be able to extend plays. And then obviously, his arm strength is special. But you look at that division. I think the whether really quarterback with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, who are quarterback and are going to probably their numbers. So it's going to be really, really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, and I think he's definitely got, Coach. These scouts, they fall in love with measurables in NFL front offices. I think that Justin Herbert has a lot of the measurables that you talked about, and I got to say, I feel like he, in the couple times I got to see him play, I felt like composure was what stood out with him.
Yep.
And he seems like of this group, he's really got the it. You know what I mean? To be potentially an NFL pedigree out of all the guys that we're looking at tonight for sure. Now the last guy, some people probably raise their eyebrows at the guy that I'm about to talk about a little bit here, but this guy comes from what they say is the finest conference in the land, Coach, and that is Jake Fromm coming from Georgia. Now, what was Jake Fromm coming from in Georgia? He came from a team that was, and we talked a few weeks back. We talked about the most intriguing college quarterback graduate transfers for the 2020 season, and we got a guy named Jamie Newman who's coming over to take over at Georgia, and he's inheriting a team that plays great defense, runs the ball, play actions the ball really well. Jake Fromm, the one thing I'll say is he graded off the charts across the board. It's pretty much universally accepted that this guy knows how to look at a defense and make good decisions with the football and all of that. There was a major, major glaring question mark in the 2019 season, which primarily involved he had 4 straight games, I think it was, where he was under 50% completion, which is almost unheard of. To be a starter, a successful starter, especially in the SEC, and have a stretch like that. What stood out to me during that time, though, if you go back and look at his game log, you'll find that even despite that, I think his touchdown to interception ratio in that time was still like, even though he's completing under 50% of his balls, in that 4-game stretch, I think his touchdown interception ratio was something like 8-3 or something like that. So, how many guys are going to play quarterback at that level, complete less than 50% of their balls in 4 straight games, and still have that kind of ratio? So, to me, that says a little something. I think I have nothing scientific behind this, but just my theory is I think he was dinged up. I really do. He bounced back in the bowl game, played well, back to his normal self in terms of completion percentage and all that. But he's always been a guy that I felt like seemed like very savvy and very, very comfortable leading a football team. He played a lot of games there at Georgia. He played through some tough injuries, a couple quirky injuries too. I think he had a fishing accident, Coach. You'll appreciate that as an amateur fisherman. And he, but I think he is well cut out for the NFL, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Buffalo has a starter in Josh Allen that they feel good about. But I could picture somebody like Jake Fromm being, what appears to me to be a pretty intelligent QB, savvy QB, being able to soak things up with Shan Gailey pulling the switches there. And check, not Shan Gailey, Coach. I'm just going to come to me in a second because Shan Gailey was obviously with the Bills before. But when in terms of what they'll do offensively in Buffalo, I think that he'll be okay, and I think that he potentially could be a guy that we'll see on the field. And he's kind of my sleeper candidate to have some success, Coach, as a rookie, if he gets the opportunity to be on the field for sure.
Yeah.
Stock up or stock down, Coach? What do you think about Jake Fromm? What do you think?
Well, it's really hard to have stock down against anybody that played in the SEC, especially the quarterback position. You look at some of the defenses that he has to play against week in and week out, and you got to imagine some of that carries over into the professional level. So just that alone, like you said, he's a savvy guy. Played in a little bit more of a pro style type of offense. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's in a situation obviously where he doesn't have to go in and start right away, and he could learn the ropes a little bit and get his shot down the road, and I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. And the SEC seems to weave itself through every area of football, both college and NFL now, Coach. So he'll be a reunion of sorts in that Brian Dable, who was obviously spent time with New England, spent time at Alabama. He'll be the guy pulling the levers for him in Buffalo. So we'll see if anything comes of it, So Coach, we're going to transition to our first guest of the evening, and a guy that we're looking forward to talking with here. Coach, we're going to welcome him in and make sure, Jordan, you with us? Jordan McAfee.
Yes, sir. I'm with you guys.
Hey, Jordan, good to see you, man. Jordan, can you just maybe tilt the camera a little bit? I want the public to see. What we're wearing on the chest tonight. We love it. We're flying the complete QB colors, man. That warms my heart right there. I'll do the same right there with you guys, all right? Excellent work. I think everybody probably will take a poll there in the chat who looks best in their complete QB gear. Guys, don't take it personal if overwhelmingly the people vote that they like me the best in a complete QB shirt. Don't take it personal, all right? So as we kick it off, first of all, family's all safe and healthy. Crazy world we're in right now. Jordan, everybody's doing well?
We're all doing well, safe and sound.
All right, good.
Mom's doing good in Texas.
That's right.
They opened up over there, so we're all doing well down there.
All right, good, man. I'm glad to hear that. So, Coach O'Flaherty, I'm going to throw it over to you for the beginning because just some of the questions we kicked around in our production meeting on Monday night, we talked about one of the things that we talked about was, the transition, obviously, initially from high school. So before we get into anything on Jordan's college journey, I know that you had a recruiting-related question. Why don't we jump into that and start with you on that, Coach?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, it's crazy that Jordan. I remember when you were just a skinny sophomore.
Practically in diapers, Coach. We all remember those days. Man.
Yeah, Coach taught you everything, right? So it was definitely a privilege to kind of watch you grow as a quarterback, and then obviously go through the recruiting process. And that's kind of what I want to talk about in terms of players getting recruited nowadays. Now you're on the other end. You're done with your recruiting. You've been recruited. And it seems to me that a lot of guys like the process, but don't like the other end of it. They don't like putting in the hard work. They love getting all the DMs from coaches and coaches hitting them up. Let's just transition from the recruiting area, and what does it take? Take us through a week in the life of a college quarterback to kind of show what the other end is besides coaches loving you up. So what does a week look like for a quarterback?
So the love stops. I mean, they all love during the recruiting process. It all stops. You're all just, all right, here's another guy on the roster. So it's like week one, say we're in the game week, it's just lots of film. I mean, I wasn't a film guy coming out of high school. I mean, that grew on me. I had learned how to watch film and all that. But film is a big piece, studying the game, knowing the game, the ins and outs of the game, not just knowing what you have to do, but what everyone else is doing on the field. You can't just worry about what I'm doing, what he's doing, what everybody's doing. So, that really grew on me and took a part on me. So just knowing the game, not just the offensive side, but the defense side especially, because that will help me grow as a player, knowing the defense, what they do, why they do it, so why we do what we do. So it was it's just a difficult process. I mean, you got to buy into it. If you don't buy into it, it's going to cut you up. So you just got to buy in and just stick it out and just be tough to it, because football is just it's a great sport, a great inventor of the game. I love to play it. It's hard work, and you got to put in the hard work.
Yeah. So, Jordan, what would let's say, what would a typical Tuesday or Wednesday look like for a college quarterback from the minute you wake up to the minute you put your head down to go to bed?
So normal Tuesday. So our Tuesdays is normal downs, first down. So wake up, I have class and all that. But then afternoon we have meetings. So we have for practice we have an hour meeting. We go over the install, what the coaches want to go over for this week, and how we want to game plan. What again, the base coverages of what they do. So it's like a base coverage. Then we go into, all right, what are we going to run? What can we do to beat this? So we go into our playbook. Look, what we got to beat. Run this, run that. Only on normal downs, and see how practice goes. We go through the practice calls, just normal downs, nothing crazy. Then Wednesdays is usually third downs, which is the most important week in my aspect, because third downs and money downs. We'll be going through that. Then after that, Fridays is usually just a little wrap up of, all right, this is what we have. Let's do this. Let's finalize and get the game plan together, and let's roll on for Saturday.
Yeah, I think all of that happening, and then obviously you're mixing in proper nutrition and weight room and classes and all of that. It becomes a huge burden, especially with the position that you play. So now let's kind of bring at least my questions kind of full circle here for you. If you were to talk to a kid going through, whether he's a quarterback or not a quarterback, but somebody going through the recruiting process, what is the best piece of advice that you could give somebody going through the process that you've already been through?
For a quarterback, I would say humble yourself. Because for me, coming out of high school as a top of my peak, coming off a state championship, I had so much success in my senior year, I would say humble yourself. Because I didn't really humble myself, and reality really hit me in my face, and it was just devastating that I wasn't the guy no more. No one was giving me that much love. I was in high school. It's just a big reality check. So I would humble yourself if I was a young senior QB coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like sound advice, right, Coach? I'll tell you one thing. So Jordan, and I'm not saying it just because you're a guest on the show tonight, but I have to tell you that your interpretation of you lacking humility is really, I mean, Coach, we remember this guy when he's a high school guy. He's not somebody I would describe as arrogant, certainly. So it was probably one of those things where you probably were harder on yourself than maybe the reality was in terms of humility. But the point's well taken, that you want to make sure, obviously, that you approach the situation with a chip on your shoulder about everything. Like, you got to earn, improve on a daily basis for sure. So since you talked about that, so we won't dwell on it. But originally, your decision coming out of high school was You originally had a staff that was headed by Bob Diaco at UConn when you were originally offered by UConn. That staff was relieved of duties in December of your senior year. And I think, if I remember back, Jordan, your mentality was that you were going to open up the recruiting process again. And then UConn indicated that they still wanted you, and they really wanted you. The new staff came in, and they really wanted you. So you went to a place that at some point in time you just felt like, you know what, I'm probably not going to be the guy here, and I want to move on. What was it like? So fast forward 2 years from when you originally made high school decision. You were the Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior in Massachusetts. You led Everett to a Super Bowl victory. That's for those folks that don't know Massachusetts football. That's the equivalent of a state championship, a Super Bowl in Massachusetts. That's what they call them. And then you moved on to UConn. So fast forward now 2 years, and now you're back in the recruiting process that you probably never anticipated being in. How is it different the second time around when it's not really, I mean, coaches aren't coming into your school to sit and meet with you because you're already in college? What was different?
Mm-hmm.
How was your mentality different? And were you better at it the second time around?
I think I was much better second time around. It was way harder than the first time around because I
Yep.
really have any coaches were asking for tape. I barely had any tape. I had practice tape from practice, so it was like difficult. A lot of JUCOs were hitting, really calling my line, and not really much schools I anticipated to call me. I mean, I was just trying to look for a place that I felt welcomed and had a chance of playing. Just give me that shot. I always wanted just one shot, and so I was going through it, and my dad and I were going back and forth on JUCOs and all that, and I wasn't really having it because they always focus about football, and I was like the school aspect because I want the education also with the football, not just I want to be a football addict. So then I got in contact with Assumption, which is our cousin coach there. Right before I came to Assumption, my cousin coached as a wide receiver coach, and he gave me the input of this is Tommy Go, all the staff there, and it felt like they really wanted me, and it was just a home feeling. And I just went with my gut and just went with Assumption College.
That's good, man. Well, and we'll get a little bit more about what Assumption football is and all of that. But I will say that, you know, to your point and to Coach O'Flaherty's point, when you have, I think when you approach recruiting with a level head, I know that, and this happens time to time, like Coach O'Flaherty and I work with a lot of quarterbacks over time, and sometimes we'll hear from college coaches, especially if there's a kid whose name goes in the transfer portal. We'll hear from coaches, and I heard from more than a couple FCS coaches that you were in the portal. They just knew your affiliation with us, and so they call for a quick background check and ask what you're capable of and our opinion of you and all that good stuff. And one of the things that stood out to me was that you didn't seem, when I talked to you, really level-headed about it. You didn't seem. I know a lot of quarterbacks, and I know Coach O'Flaherty can identify with this. It's just the highest level they could play at or bust. You know what I mean? Like there's some FBS quarterbacks that say like, well, I want to go to another FBS school. Which unless you were really, really highly ranked coming out of high school, or you tore it up at one point and then just got replaced at the FBS level, making that lateral transfer very rarely for a quarterback makes sense, especially in the era of the transfer portal. And I thought that I was impressed by the fact that you were willing to not only go down one divisional level, but two divisional levels to find a spot that you felt like you could thrive, get a good degree, all that good stuff. So I thought that was a positive for sure. And I think there's a lesson to be learned in that. We deal with players all the time at the high school level who are, they grow up thinking, I'm going to play at Ohio State. And Coach O'Flaherty and I are it's very common for us to basically say some variation on this message, which is not necessarily where you could play, it's where you could get recruited, and that's
exactly.
and be recruited to a good spot, You talked about being a student of the game. I'm certain that that's helped you walking in the door at Assumption, but where do you think you needed to get better from an execution or a physical standpoint as a quarterback? And where do you think you still need to get better?
Well, how I got better was, especially at Assumption, they really talked the defensive side of the ball, which really helped me, which UConn really didn't explain well, or was to the point where I really didn't understand it. So they broke it down to me where I understood it, and it really helped me. Like I was going out there knowing, okay, they're in cover 4. All right, bam, bam, bam. I know my reads and all that. So it really helped me knowing the game and really understanding why defenses do what they do and why are we doing what we do to execute the play. The area where I could really improve on, which every quarterback can, is their footwork. I mean, I struggle with that day in, day out. I got to keep at it, and just it's a pain in the butt to keep working on, but it's only going to help me get better, execute better, and play faster.
Absolutely, and I mean some good things happened obviously during your time there because at one point you were the NE10 Rookie of the Week. I know that you had a really good you had a really good start to things that were going on. You had an exciting win over Bentley, and there's some really good football in that NE10 conference. I know the coach has some players that have played for him that are up there, and I do as well. And it's some really good football. We'll talk in a little bit. Don't give away the answer to our trivia question tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about NE10 impact on the NFL, but I think it's something impressive. But what insight could you give us when we talk about Assumption College? What's it about, and what should people know about Assumption? What are the good things going on there?
I mean, so Assumption College is all about fight. We're known as the second half team, which I realized and seen I've seen that, witnessed it on my first hand, actually playing. We're really a second half team. Like when we're down, no one's negative. Everyone's picking each other up. It's really inspiring. It's very great to see. Like we came back from probably a 20-point lead, came back, won games. We're very hard workers, and we all like a brotherhood. It's just one team, one heartbeat, and it's something very special to see.
That's great, man. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit for a minute and just ask you that. And this is definitely on the serious side. It's completely unavoidable with what's going on in the world right now. Forget the fact that there's a pandemic on. Okay, I'm sitting in Brooklyn, New York right now, with an 8 p.m. curfew on the streets. I was funny. I was on the football field with my son last night at 7:55. My youngest son, 9 years old, and he's saying, "Dad, we gotta get home." And I just forgot. I was like, "Wow, that's what we're living in right now." So a little history lesson, amateur history geek, and I gotta say that I will tell you that every time in history where things have changed for the positive, like if you want a movement to not work, just let the grown-ups, let the established people be the ones who say, we're gonna get better, and we're gonna fix things and all of that. This is the first time that I can remember in recent history when there was a social issue, and obviously the killing of black people in the United States is just like at epidemic levels. And I know that you're a thoughtful kid, and that's why I want to ask you about this. Because you're young, every time in history where we've seen popular change, meaning demonstration movements and all that, I remember when I was in college myself at Syracuse University, I gave a quick shout out to Professor Horace Campbell. Guy changed my life and gave me a perspective on the world that I'm eternally grateful to him for. And one thing that we learned was the American civil rights, the Soweto in South Africa, the Soweto student uprisings in 1976. It had nothing to do with the people in charge. It had nothing to do with the grown-ups. It was the young people. On the positive side of what's happened with demonstrations and protests, what do you think young people's role is right now? Because I know this is something that's on your mind.
I feel like their role is to seek change. I mean, the justice isn't being served, and people are at this point fed up with it, and they just want to seek change, and this is why they're protesting and all that. And I mean, it's not. I don't partake in the looting and all that, but it's just big. It has to be known. It frustrates me seeing all this, and it puts like a chip to my shoulder. Like I gotta watch my back everywhere I go, and it's just nerve wracking. But change has to happen. I mean, the government. It's like, who do we call when stuff goes bad? It's like we can't rely on the policemen because it's like they always see us in the wrong, and it's very difficult for black men nowadays to do what they want. It's just they always look as wrong people, and it's sad. And I just want to see change.
Got it. Now, is that something
needs to be served?
Is this a topic that's like, I gotta imagine you guys got group texts going, and there's like just communication going on among your peers and among your crew of people that you're close to you and your teammates and all that. I gotta believe, is it front and center on everybody's mind right now?
Yeah, my coach actually had a meeting about this the other day. We actually had a whole open topic about it as a team, and coach brought it to my attention, which I really appreciate coming from. He doesn't really know what it feels to be in my shoes, but he's really rooting for us, and that really inspired me to be like, oh, he really invested in me and really cares about what's going on, which really showed me a lot. And everyone was giving their piece of advice, and it really shows. So yeah, we're all talking about it. I talked to my family about it, talked to teammates about it. It's a big thing going on. I want everyone to notice, like, we need to see change.
No doubt. Well, I'm glad we took a minute to get your perspective on it. And I think what you talked about being empathetic it's like, listen, man, I couldn't go in the delivery room with my wife either, but I could empathize with, with what she had to do and what she had to go through. And people could feel supported if they don't look like you or they don't share your exact experience. If you let them know that, you know what, I'm mindful of, like, you're going through something. And I think just having this was dumb luck that we had you on tonight, because we had this on our schedule a few weeks in arrears. But I'm glad that the timing was such that we could talk with you a little bit about this tonight. And I know that, and just knowing Coach O'Flaherty for a long time, Coach played for me. He's a thoughtful guy. He cares about people, and I know a lot of people like that. And I think that we're going to have not just the empty promises. And I see a lot of stuff getting tweeted out and looks great on an Instagram feed or a Twitter feed, but you got to kind of scratch your head sometimes and say, "Oh, okay, that sounds nice," but like, do you have any ideas, and would you be willing to do the follow up to make some of these ideas? I know a lot of backlash from the NFL among their players based on the statement that went out yesterday. So I'm going to be interested to see just really basic. I find that the most change usually comes not in like the really big dramatic things, but like the basic things. Like, what can you do at the community level to just change interaction with people? Is it a matter of training? Is it a matter of better hiring practices? Is it better education? Like those sorts of things, that tend to not, they're a little bit on the boring side, to be honest with you, but they can have a major impact on the way that people live their lives, So, listen, man, Jordan McAfee, Coach, I know we've been talking about this for weeks. We're excited to have him, Coach O'Flaherty. Yeah. This guy, NE10, Rookie of the Week at one point this year. Also off to a really good start at Assumption College. We're really excited. We know that you're doing your thing there academically too, which we love hearing, and we look for some more big things coming down. Coach, anything for Jordan before we cut out?
No, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you. It's good to see your career. Kind of take it to where it's gone. Especially seeing you as a young kid in high school and doing all the great things that you're doing and that you're going to continue to do. So appreciate you jumping on with us tonight.
Absolutely, man. A lot of fun to have you, and I think we may see you back here. I'm going to bring you on as a special guest. All right, the young person ear to the world, and let us know what's going on. Jordan, thanks for your time, man. Oh, wait a minute. How did I forget this, Jordan? I forgot the entrepreneurship. If I forgot this, man, I would have heard from you later, and especially from your dad. I got to throw it up on the screen, man. I love the fact that the entrepreneurship is alive and well. You and your father are in business. In the midst of the pandemic, you guys figure out a way to say, hey, this is something that's been on our mind. I'm going to give you a second to people that are in the Massachusetts, particularly the Boston area, especially just north of Boston. Talk about the business. Give us 10 seconds on the business.
Yeah, the business is up and running. I mean, my dad and I sat one day. It was like, we should start a business. And he said pressure washing. So we were like, all right, let's do it. And my dad's been doing all like the manual hard labor, and I've been doing like the accounts and all the Twitter feeds and all that. So we're looking at a great team, and hopefully it gets up and running soon. Like we said, we have clients lined up. It's just waiting for this pandemic to go down. So I'll
tell you right now, you better be able to power wash a GMC Acadia, because I'm going to be up there, man. I'm gonna, once things get a little bit better, I'm going to be up there, and I want to get the power wash treatment from Aquavan. The information's right there, brother. Thanks again, man. I appreciate it, and we're gonna talk to you again real soon. Okay, man.
Very good, Coach.
All right, Jordan. All right, be safe, man. Take care.
Bye.
All right, Coach O'Flaherty. So, quick takeaways, man. It's just good hearing from somebody who's got a different perspective, and that's something that's really important. I think I've got you got to forgive us for a second here as we're gonna throw in our next guest, and we're gonna go, Coach. We're gonna go straight to our next guest, and the only reason we're gonna disrupt the routine that we had, and we said we were going to do the food segment next, but as we sat like minutes before we went on air, I said we got to bring this guy in for the food segment, because I wouldn't even know about this place if it wasn't for our next guest. So I'm going to get with our super producer Renee, and hope to God that I didn't jack this up. I think I did jack it up. So she's from the production room right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring in our guy right here, and we're going to bring him in. Coach Rob Stern is going to be with us here. So, Coach Stern, you're going to give us about 10 seconds. We'll make sure that the screen's right for you, because I know you're a little bit of a Hollywood guy, and we don't want to mess this up on you. But I'm going to talk about his background, his history. Coach Rob Stern is the offensive coordinator at St. Joe's Regional in North Jersey. It's in Montvale, New Jersey. and he's a guy that we have a real long history with. So Rob's been involved in a lot of coaching and a lot of winning in high school football in New Jersey. And a little teaser, not just high school football, but another sport as well. We'll talk about momentarily. But Rob's been the offensive coordinator there. He's also a former head coach at St. Peter's College. Was a 1AA football school in beautiful Jersey City, New Jersey, where Rob was in the year 2000, 2001 was a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Award for the College Football Coach of the Year. So a really good history there. Was at Hudson Catholic, which is where both Coach O'Flaherty and I came to know him. He was my head coach when I was an assistant for him there from 03 through 08. And Ryan O'Flaherty was a legendary quarterback at Hudson Catholic. I'm sure we could walk down memory lane a little bit while we deal with Coach here tonight. But without further ado, want to welcome this guy in, Coach Rob Stern. Thanks for being with us, man.
Hey, Chris, great to be here.
I don't know if you can hear, but the studio audience is going crazy with applause in the background, Rob. Thank you for being here, man.
I'll tell you what, it's great to be here with you guys. It was a nice introduction there. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Happy to have you. Now, Coach O'Flaherty, I'm going to let you. I know you said you're going to kind of work off of me here, and this is a great chance, man. Like, who wouldn't like the guy who was screaming at you 15, 17 years ago? You got a chance. You got a chance to get him in your sights now on a national, on a worldwide complete QB Live segment. But I'm going to kick off the questions, Rob, and I'm just going to jump right into it because I know I'm getting older. I'm 48 years old right now, and I know I'm getting older, but I feel like things are evolving with the players, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But how have you changed and evolved as a quarterback coach over the years? What's changed for you?
Well, hey, I don't know if I was as warm and fuzzy now as I was when I was coaching Rye Guy over
there. Hey, let me stop you, Coach. You definitely weren't. You definitely were not. Go ahead.
I mean, the love and the care that we gave Rye. I mean, if I would have known he was going to grow up to be Matt Patricia, I would have been a little nicer. Put the beard on there, but
that's good stuff.
I think that as time has developed, as a going from a younger coach to an older coach, you see things a little differently. Mm-hmm. When you're the head coach and you're just a position coach or a coordinator, I think you have a different bond with your players as a coordinator than you do as a head coach.
No,
it's just a different feel being with guys, and you're in the room a little more. You're breaking down film in a different way, specific. You don't look at the overall view of everybody, but just the guys you're coaching and the guys you're with. And obviously the technology is great. Days of your text message guys staying in contact with players.
Yep.
FaceTime. There's different breaking down some barriers that you're not just the grizzly bear all the time.
Yeah, for sure. That's the truth. I know, Coach O'Flaherty, you were talking about just philosophy over time. Is something you want to touch on with Coach, for sure.
Yeah. So obviously, unique situation playing for you, and then now coaching against you. But you've been calling offenses for a long time. As time has gone on, has your approach to install and your philosophy. Now, listen, your players are a heck of a lot better than your quarterback's a heck of a lot better than I was, back in the day. But has your philosophy changed? Has your the way you approach install, has that stuff changed throughout the years?
Again, I think with the technology that we have now, and it's easier to do a few more things. It's easier to portray it to your kids, saying, "Hey, we're going to have a Zoom meeting. We got we're big on the learn to win right now." Where you can give your kids the ability to see stuff where you had to do it every day with players. I come still from the reel-to-reel days where you had to throw a reel on or pop a VHS tape in, to communicate with your kids. And I think another big part too is, like you and myself, would program that kids, so you're able to differently. You're playing ways all the time. You had to blow a whistle and go defense. Where the quarterback, especially in bigger programs, just plays offense. And you're able now when the defensive guys are doing major stuff and may need, the running backs to run inside run, you could be playing with the wideouts and doing more stuff in your offense that you couldn't do maybe 15 years ago because you needed those guys to work offense for a period, defense for a period, special teams.
No doubt. Now, do you remember? So you talk about technology, Coach Stern. You remember back then, and when I say back then, I'm talking, I want to say for the '07 season maybe. We got our hands on a technological innovation that we thought was the greatest. Coach Stern, the next trip after the Corona, the next trip out to eat is on me. If you could tell me the piece of technology we had that predated Huddle, if you can remember what it was called. It came in a box.
It came in a box. Now, I know what you're talking about. It's at the tip of my tongue. I'm actually having it in my basement.
Come on.
Catholic.
Coach O'Flaherty, you want to take a stab at it?
It was the Landro play analyzer.
The Landro, right? So the Landro was this thing in a box, and it was basically like glorified hard drive hooked up to a monitor. It had its own little keyboard. It was a computer, basically, and it was, as you transferred video in there from DVD, this thing was unbelievable. Now you see, we thought we were a big deal then, Rob. You remember, and Coach O'Flaherty, you remember. We thought we were a big deal. Like, I could have the running backs and O-line and quarterbacks stop by the office on the way out and pick up a Blitz DVD or something, and we were like light years ahead. Versus just a year or two before, you'd be giving a kid a stack of VHS tapes maybe and saying, watch all the Blitz stuff that these guys are doing. It's just amazing. Go ahead.
I tell you what, that's probably the most important thing for me as a coach. I went through a couple of years of just sitting in front of that Landro play analyzer, and I think you had some type of Celtic poster up there on your desk there. But that's that I was a GA back then, and it definitely helped me, down the road. I felt like I was so much ahead of the game, when I was given a position and then moved on to coordinator and things like that.
No doubt. That's for sure. What do you think about the QBs in terms of personality themselves, Coach Stern? Now, I know with social media that, all due respect to parents, the wacky parents are a little wackier than they were. And what do you think what's the best adjective for us? Are the quarterbacks, or just high school athletes in general, is there a softness to them? Are they in some ways, are they tougher than they were? Like, what do you think? How do you assess the quarterbacks themselves now versus, say, 15 or 17 years ago?
Some of it, sometimes some entitlement. Guys thinking they went to some big time camps, and one guy wrote them up and gave them a few stars, and and now it's like you forget sometimes what the work that you have to put in to get. I mean, listen, I've been fortunate, over the time, coach a lot of great quarterbacks.
You have,
and I've coached some guys that haven't had maybe as much skill, as certain guys had, and they've outworked those guys. And then you see some guys that, because they got some stars, maybe they're not putting in the time or whatever. They just you don't want to use the word maybe soft, coddled, maybe. I don't know.
They're coasting a little bit, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think that's a fair point, and I think that for the most part, what I find is that when you can break through all that stuff, like I think the hardest part of the year typically is coming back from, and obviously we all work during the summer and all that, and we're able to do that sort of stuff, but coming back into actual preseason when guys have come off the summer camp circuit and they've spent so much time on social media looking for the next guy who wrote #BeyondBlessed to receive an offer from such and such. That's more. I think what has happened over time is that it's more about the quarterback, instead of being here, is in lane 1 and lane 3 instead of just staying in their lane right here to see what can I do for myself, as opposed to worrying about what the next man has and all of that. And that's that's probably another discussion for another time, because we definitely want to bring you back. But some of the offers, the difference among the offers that are being thrown out to high school players, some of them are real offers, especially at the quarterback position. Some of them are real, and some of them are not so real. And so I think sometimes quarterbacks can, their impression of the college football world can be a bit delusional at times. And I think that's to their detriment, And fortunately, they got guys like you and Coach O'Flaherty who are kind of guiding them. But I want to bring it full circle. What made Ryan O'Flaherty, what made Coach O'Flaherty one of your guys way back in 2004 when he was pressed after an all-county guy graduated. He was pressed in to quarterback duties the next year. What made him one of Rob Stern's guys?
I think, Ryan, listen, he had great work ethic.
Yeah.
All right. He was always a tough kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, I guess we were blessed at the time at Hudson Catholic to have some linebacker, quarterback mentality kind of guys.
Yep.
So he was going to stay in there and take a hit and get up and, spit on the ground and go to the next play and not cry about anything because I guess I knew he wasn't coming over to the sideline to see Winnie the Pooh. So he kind of knew. But, again, you throw those cliches out. Ryan was a lunch pail kind of guy.
Yep.
In many ways, but his work ethic, his toughness. I mean, he was again, for the Hudson County guys that are out there, he's a kid from Bayonne and he was a tough kid.
No
He's
doubt.
old school, and and he wanted to play. And again, he followed a great guy, and I think he wanted to be like, hey, this is my turn to go do it, and I got to figure out a way. And it's those guys that listen, we all love coaching the 5-star guys, the 4-star guys, but when you coach guys. I was, blessed to coach a kid like Ryan. It wasn't a 5-star guy that gave everything he's got. When I was back up at St. Joe's, I coached a kid, Jack Walsh, who only played for 1 year and waited his turn to play. And statistically, has one of the best, years at St. Joe's. But those guys are guys that as coaches, it's easy to coach the guy that's really good, but the guy that's wants to work and get better. Those are the guys you love coaching. You have fun during the journey doing it.
No doubt. And I got to see if I can get in the archives find out how many stars Ryan O'Flaherty did have in the fall of 2004. I would love to know. I'm going to see.
Might have been negative. I might have been in the negative.
So
he's definitely a couple of stars.
So I'll tell you this though. I think you can tell he's getting older because he's getting into glory days mode. Coach, our pre-production meeting, he was kicked around. Does anybody have any 2004 VHS tape? So we're digging in the archives. I want you to dedicate some time down in the man cave, Coach Stern. I want to see if you can dig out any 04 VHS tape for your former QB. So
I definitely cue up the Springsteen glory days. I definitely got a couple of. I tell you, hey, listen, the tape we got to have is the Bayonne tape.
Absolutely.
Back in the day when Hudson isn't where the level you guys got him at now, but we went down on a Friday night to Vet Stadium and beat a Bayonne team that was loaded. And Rye guy stood in the pocket on a 4th and 18 and drilled a curl route.
He sure did, man.
We were running a little deep then, but a big play, but.
Triple overtime victory for sure. It was played notable because of severe weather that weekend. That game was played on a Sunday night. You remember that, Coach O'Flaherty? Played on Sunday.
We played 3 games. We played 3 games in the beginning of the season that year in what was it, 19 days or something,
sure.
18 days. It was a very short because of the weather or whatever the case may be, but it was very unique.
It really was. So that brings us, high school football in 2020, I'm staying really positive about this, that we're going to be able to pull this off. And I think time spent saying, hey, what's going to happen is probably time wasted because none of us really know because we don't know what 3 weeks from now, what the epidemiologist, that's another SAT word, Coach O'Flaherty. If Coach Fitz is out there, he likes to count the big words that I say. So the epidemiologist will tell us in a few weeks, hey, the trend is good, the trend is bad, you're either on or off. But Coach Stern, I want to get your take on a unique idea that we kicked around a couple nights ago in pre-production. We said, hey, if it did come to this, spring 2021, if the fall 2020 high school football season were to happen in spring 2021 in the Northeast, and for us particularly in New Jersey, could that happen? Is that crazy, or could that be real?
I mean, listen, I think they're kicking around everything right now because you have to.
Yeah.
Coming out of a guy who coaches another sport in the spring season that just lost the whole season.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see any kid lose any season now. I don't think, in my lifetime of coaching, I never thought I'd see a season wiped out.
Yeah.
So, if you told me right now, hey, we had to play, I don't know, February, March, and April, or some combination of months to guarantee that you're going to play football, yeah, I think we'd all sign for it. But
no doubt.
Again, I think then you get the tough part is, hey, if you play March, April, May, how do you come back and play?
Yeah.
Right away again, start up in August. But, the good news is when you look at everything, it's only June 3rd. And for the most part, we wouldn't all be getting out for 7-on-7s and all of that after June 15th. So technically, we're not really that far behind right now. I just think we're behind mentally because all we've been talking about for 12 weeks since there's been no sports professionally or scholastically is, hey, what's going to happen? So again, can it happen? Yeah, listen, I'm sure we can get anything, in reality to happen, but let's hope we have a traditional season. But if it had to be switched, I think we'd all sign up for knowing that we're going to play than we're not going to play.
No doubt. I think that's the truth, man. And I feel encouraged. At least I'm feeling more positive vibes among to quote the great Bill Fitzgerald, a lot of positive vibes related to the potential for us to play in 2020. So let's hope we can do that. Coach, we're gonna have you stick around for the rest of the ride here for a few minutes. You got the time for us, Coach Stern?
Hey, for two of my former guys, absolutely. I don't know.
No doubt. So here's one of the things that for sure we've been saying we're going to start this for weeks, and that is a food segment. And a food segment because if you coach high school football, you coach college football, you coach at any level, you love some food, man, and it's just a big part of what you do. I miss the old days, Coach, because on Monday nights we used to be in the office and would get usually a couple of freshman coaches run out and get us some food from Pizza Master in Jersey City. I don't want to get too nostalgic here, Coach, but I remember those days and how much fun it was to just be able to, that was a big part of what we did. So we said, you know what, we're going to try and bring in a place every week that's just a really good food establishment. And it's because it feels like my family, I've taken my family. You recommended this place to me about 7-8 weeks ago, Coach. And we've been there like 4 times. And it's in New Jersey and we live in Brooklyn. So that's got to tell you something. And the place is really good. And that place is Santillo's in beautiful Elizabeth, New Jersey, Coach, right? How'd you find out about Santillo's, Coach?
I knew it was there for a long time. And talking to another friend of mine during the pandemic here that was I was asking what he was up to, and he was saying, "Hey, I've gone to 10 of the top 100 pizzerias in the world. I mean, in the country."
Yeah.
And I said, "Where you been going?" And he rattled off a bunch of places, and I said, "Hey, I heard that place is good." And he said, "Hey, you got to go down."
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've been there obviously, and Al's a regular guy for the Hudson County guys.
No doubt.
Al would have fit in back with the FA back in the day. 100%.
And I'll tell you this, and you know this from going to like the big time places. Sometimes, and Coach O'Flaherty, I'm sure, can identify with this. When you go to the big time places, sometimes the food establishments, the people don't know how to talk to you. They know that everybody's coming, and they know that it's like fishing in a barrel. They know that they have a clientele, and if you get angry because they were not nice to you, or whatever, there's 10 more customers right behind you to come in the door, and they have that type of volume at Santillo's. But I got to tell you, I've been there 4 times. Where people don't always listen, people don't always follow directions in a pandemic. You're supposed to stand over here, but you're not standing over there. And these guys are pretty. And on the chat, I got to tell you, Derek Talty's checking in, said Coach Stern had the best pregame spread for home games at St. Peter's College. We ate like kings. So I got to tell you that, Coach. Listen, proper nourishment is extremely crucial and central to Coach Stern. He loves it. He loves telling people about good places. But I tell you, this crew over there was so nice, and we even got a shot of Coach Johnston there, leaving with my youngest over at Santillo's. Has been there 103 years, I think, in the same spot, coaches, like just crazy. So if you get a chance to get over there, and this is not a paid promotion, guys, just so you know, we're not getting anything for it. Although, Coach Stern, you did win a contest and won a T-shirt there last week, I believe, right?
I did win a T-shirt, yeah. I did win a T-shirt of sitting down on his Instagram, and I got lucky. But what makes the place great too is you got to tell the people he's in his house. He's cooking out of his basement. Out of the side.
How crazy is that?
He's got pieces coming out, keep them straight. You
walk down the alleyway right now. I've never been there outside of quarantine, so I'm interested to see what it looks like under regular circumstances. And then we got Coach John Conroy up in Massachusetts, where I got to say, if you've been to a Patriots game, just down the road, just over in the Walpole line for our New England people, that's a really good place called Red Wing in Walpole. My wife will remember it fondly. She was pregnant. I took her to the Red Wing in Walpole, just down the street from Gillette. So that's a good place for sure. We want to jump into We're going to jump into drill of the week. Coach Stern, this is like an exam. Did you have a chance to look at the drill of the week that we posted to our YouTube channel? It was a world premiere on Monday, Coach. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it was.
I didn't catch it on Monday, but I did catch it today. I got to say the video is outstanding. First of all, why? It is shot at St. Joe's.
It is shot at St. Joe's, Coach.
That's St. Joe's, and all the championship banners that St. Joe's has won is in the background. So
you noticed, and
turn on the video right away. I was a fan of it, but I think it's a great drill because it gives you instant feedback, you know, on the type of drill that you're using there.
No doubt. Well, I appreciate that. One of the things that I think we want to just make sure that when people are looking at it and they're just as in terms of drilling the basketball bounce as a video, as a drill, I think one of the important things is that we just keep in mind that as we transfer weight, it's one of those things. We talked about this last week, Coach O'Flaherty. I think one of the things that gets lost in the era of 100 college camps that you could go to in the springtime and all of that is the dedication to simple technique. I think the worst way to not get better is when you spend a ton of time just out throwing 7-on-7 or just throwing live routes to your buddies because you think, hey, I'm out there working, I was sweating, I had a good time, I must be getting better. But if you have something fundamentally that's wrong, let's say you're stomping all over your midline with that front foot and you're not transferring your weight from back to front on your lower half, that type of thing. If you go out there and throw the ball, especially if I'm out there with guys from other schools and stuff and I'm trying to, puff my chest out and impress people, or I'm at a college camp where it's a meat market and I'm trying to impress coaches, I think having those finite details, those small details that you can get better at, I think isolated drills are a great way to do that, and it's not a huge investment of time. If you do the basketball bounce, you can do this 3-4 times a week for a minute, and it's going to make an impact. Coach O'Flaherty, it's something you're well familiar with because you've been teaching that right along with me for the better part of 15 years. So what are your thoughts just there on the transfer of weight, Coach?
Well, I think not only is the transfer of the weight. I think when you look at these types of drills, you're essentially bottling up a lot of different movements and a lot of different focus areas into one drill. So yeah, is it great for transferring the weight? I really do believe that it's a great drill. But more importantly, when you talk about closing off that front shoulder, not flying open with that front hip, you just cover so much in this drill that you don't need to go to a camp for. You don't need to. You don't need a receiver for. This is something that you could do on your own.
Sure.
And it just covers so much of the actual throwing motion for a quarterback. So you can't go wrong with this drill.
All right, well, guys, you can check that at Complete QB videos on YouTube. That's it's a great resource. We got a whole bunch of stuff up there, so please get there and just check out the stuff that we have there. We're going to jump into Complete QB trivia. We're fired up for that, man. And tonight's been Chad's going to be mad at us, our voice guy. So I got to say, Chad, just tell him what you're going to hit him with tonight. When you get the chance, man, he's going to scramble to the microphone. But I want to
Time for Complete QB trivia.
Thank you, Chad. So we're going to jump now. We're going to take a look at our trivia question for tonight, and it's got an Assumption College. We had Jordan McAfee on, Coach Stern, just before you. I'm sure you heard him before you joined.
Yep.
And Jordan had off to a great start in his career at Assumption College. So it brings us to our trivia question tonight. It's a multiple choice question, Coach Stern. Coach Stern, you will have the opportunity as a guest to get an upgraded appearance prize if you can get this. But you got to send that. Don't answer it on air. You're going to text that answer to super producer Renee, and she's going to get you. She's going to obviously get you credit if you get that right answer. So, what current member of the New Orleans Saints played at Assumption College? Was it A, Taysom Hill, B, Nick Easton, C, Deontay Harris, or D, Ricky Ortiz? So we're going to ask our people in the chat. Go ahead and answer. First person that gets that one for us, go ahead and tell us which one of those four, A, Taysom Hill, B, Nick Easton, C, Deontay Harris, or D, Ricky Ortiz. Now, I will tell you that this guy, he didn't just make the New Orleans Saints. This guy made a splash in a big way as he joined the New Orleans Saints. He was a first-team All-Pro this year and in the 2019 season, and really made a huge impact. And this goes back to the recruiting piece, guys. It's funny when you think of how many Power 5 FBS guys were sitting home last fall. They weren't playing in the NFL, and here's a guy who just kind of grinded it out and obviously got himself an opportunity and made the most of it in the first team All-Pro, which is pretty impressive. So, Coach Stern, okay, we're giving people in the chat a chance. Coach, do you have an answer for us on the trivia side?
I got an answer for you, and I gotta lie and tell you that it was my son who just texted me, who must be watching the show. So you got at least 2 or 3 viewers. And Joe Stern says C.
The answer is C. Deontay Harris was a first-team All-Pro in 2019. I think he was 3rd in the league in kick return average, and I think he was might have been 1st in punt return average. So he was really had an impressive campaign, man. Just shows, guys, if you're at a level where, guys, I go through this every year as a high school coach, and I know these 2 guys do as well. So many high school players, and guys, real quick before we wrap the show, how many times do you have a guy when we say, hey, we got 4 or 5 D2 schools, they're going to give you significant money, and they're excited to have you, and you just see that look of disappointment on their face, like, like only D2. And it's like, the frustration as a high school coach is, guys, I don't know if you know what D2 is about. Because I could take you to some D3 football games, and you're going to see some dudes running around out there that don't look like a lot of the guys you're playing against in high school, even on real good teams. Real quick, Coach Stern, what's your impression on that, with guys kind of thumbing their nose a little bit initially when they hear, oh, it's only D2?
Hey, listen, I could take it when I was coaching at St. Peter's College, and we'd go in there to places 1AA non-scholarship.
Yep.
And fighting and stuff, and
yep.
there was some real guys. We had a bunch of guys that got looks in the NFL. From where we were, and into some camps. The bottom line is go where you wanted. Explore all options. And especially if you want to play. Some guys may have a 3-year career plan at D2, or you're a practice guy at D1. And I think sometimes it comes down to, hey, I can't run into Dick's and buy that sweatshirt that says Assumption College, in New Jersey. But I can get to D1, and again, especially too, and getting your education paid for, you can't buy that, So go where you wanted, look at all levels, and like you just said, Chris, there's some D2 schools that are going to beat some other guys, that got players. So quality kids all over. That's
the truth, man. That's the truth. Yep. All right, well, Rob, we had a blast having you on here, man. Really appreciate it. We're going to let everybody know that first of all, what we find is we get a lot more after-the-fact viewers because this weather's starting to turn nice, and people probably trying to squeeze the last little bit of sunlight out of the day they can get. So this will continue to be up, obviously, on Complete QB videos on YouTube. And Rob, we want to have you back real soon for sure. And
Chris, I just want to get one thing in here before the end here.
Yep.
I just, again, this isn't a paid promo because you guys are my guys, and I coach with you and coached obviously one of you. But, from Chris's side, and obviously Ryan working with them, they do a great job with the Complete QB camps. They're great guys. They're great to work with your kids. They're going to give you knowledge, positive feedback to the guys that they work with. I haven't had a kid that's gone to the camp that didn't say, hey, those guys are good people. I know they put their traveling road show on, and I don't know what it's going to look like this year, but they go all over the place. And, if you get an opportunity, you should work with these guys or virtually work with these guys. And, lastly, more important, I know we joke around a lot, but I couldn't be more proud of Ryan. Watching him from a kid, knowing his family, and watching him grow through the ranks of a player to a coach to doing all the grunt work. He said it before about breaking down the GA stuff. I think that's lost in a lot of young coaches. Everybody wants to wear a headset today, and everybody wants to, be the star. But he kind of worked through the ranks, being a position guy up to a coordinator. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I was actually genuinely happy this year when that pass was completed and that school on Grand Street. Won championship. It's hard for me to get that word out of me. I couldn't be more happy for Ryan that he was a big part of that game. That I know he's not going to take the credit for it, but when you're watching as a coach, it was definitely some of the adjustments he made inside the game, and got a chance to win a championship, and that's the most special thing you can do as a coach, be part of a championship run in a team. But Ryan, I can't be more proud of you.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, listen, that was like, wow, that was some endorsement. Coach. I gotta see if you want to come on staff. I need a hype man. That was unbelievable. I appreciate
Hey, listen,
that.
there's hype coaches now. I can be a hype guy at the camp.
That's right, and I think,
There you go.
Coach, all the people up here get a T-shirt. You just got to upgrade it to like a full sweatsuit, probably. If we have mink coats coming, you're getting one of those, man. Next week is Wednesday, June 10th, and I know Coach Stern will be tuned in, and all his crew will be tuned in. June 10th next week, we've got an exciting lineup. I think it's just we've been heavily focused on the Northeast because it's where we are physically, branching out here a little bit. We got Rod Carson, who actually just had a really nice run over the last 6-7 years down to George Washington Carver in Birmingham, Alabama. And he is a dude who really got into coaching for the right reasons. Aside from being a pro and a really good offensive mind, he is he's in this profession for the right reasons, does really well by his kids on everything from coaching them up and just in life and then on the recruiting trail, making them great football players, all that. And he's moving on to a new opportunity. He's going to be the new offensive coordinator. He's jumping in the Shark Tank. Alabama's good football. He's about to go to Houston, Texas. He's going to be the new offensive coordinator of Beaumont United High School in Beaumont, Texas, just outside Houston. So we're really excited because for a bunch of reasons, but also just to talk with him about what's going on in high school football down there, because they're ready to rock down there. We're worried about when we're going to get access to our players, and they're rolling. So to be interested. And then he'll be followed up by a guy who you're not going to find anybody who has anything bad to say about this guy on the recruiting trail. This guy he's a straight-up guy, and he'll talk honesty with you, and a heck of a football coach. This is Coach Vince Reynolds, D-line coach. We're going to get a defensive perspective on the show next week. So Coach Reynolds will be joining us from Syracuse University. So we're really excited, man. So to all, thanks for viewing. To our guests, Jordan McAfee and Rob Stern, thanks for being with us. Coach O'Flaherty, last word before we get on out of here and Chad takes us home.
No, I think we're good to go. I think it was another great week of Complete QB Live. Appreciate Jordan and obviously Coach Stern coming on. Really unique for me the last 2 weeks being able to talk with quarterback and my former head coach. So really good stuff.
No doubt. All right, Coach. Thanks, and everybody viewing. Thanks. We'll see you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for being with us for Complete QB Live. Join us next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern.